Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Austin here with some StarCraft 2 commentary action. This will be episode number 4, and today I will be bringing you actually a 3v3 from placement matches, featuring myself over here as the Teal Protoss at the bottom left of my proper team ramp here on Cinder Fortress. At the center of our team ramp is Skitn, the blue Protoss. He is a friend of my brother's. And on the right side here we have, of course, my brother Conrad, the red Zerg. And on the opposing side, on their right side, well, on our right side, their actual left side is LolsAssassin, and he's the purple Terran. In the middle of their ramp is Gatsin, the yellow Protoss, and on the left or right of the ramp, whatever. I'll just say right, middle, left of their ramp is PPZvPPT, the orange Protoss. And now, of course, all teams opening up quite orthodox, as is to be expected. That's what orthodox means, in case you do not know. All Protoss players getting their proper pylons, and our two wildcard races, we should say, Terran and Zerg here, moving out as is to be expected. And so, 2 supply depots in production here for LolsAssassin, who I will refer to as Assassin, just because I have some trouble pronouncing the letter L. Do not ask me why, it's just a matter of pronunciation. And so these 2 supply depots now finishing, and a quick forge for Gatsin alongside a gateway, whilst his partner PPZvPPT goes for a mere gateway. And myself, of course, with the gateway, and my partner in Protoss crime with his own, and Conrad here finally with the pool. And I believe this is just a simple 14 pool. He does not have any sort of natural coming up, which is quite smart. On this map you have the destructible rocks protected natural, so this is a double natural for 2 players, 1 each, or 1 greedy player for both. And then you have the immediate natural near to my base, and a farther away gold expansion that's in a little more ludicrous territory. And then of course you've got a couple more natural expansions, and the opponents have the exact same thing. And so obviously this indicates that these natural areas, if the destructible rocks are taken out, can be quite contested territory. And if we look over here, a simple wall-in double photon cannon from Gatsin, so clearly we can see that he is expecting early Zerg pressure, and that is reasonable. Usually Zerglings can be quite annoying if you do not have any photon cannons and just a couple of zealots. And so now for Skitn, he has more of a spread out pylon strategy. Actually, personally, I prefer pylons bunched up, as you may see. I used to have more of Skitn's mentality, but then when somebody would destroy one of my pylons, multiple buildings would become unpowered, and I figured it was not wise for me to rely on 1 pylon for multiple buildings. As you can see here, this is actually a quite neat spread, as Skitn has played it quite smartly. Each building is on the power grid multiple times, so I have to say the spread is quite smart. Though when he gets more buildings, more will rely on this exterior space here. It's almost, I forget the name of it, but it's a graph, isn't it? Or, sorry, not a graph, some sort of diagram. A Venn diagram, that's what it is. It's a triple Venn diagram in a weird way. And if we look at our production tab, we have a Roach Warren finished for Conrad, and just some quick metabolic boost for his Zergling speed. And here we have a Tech Lab, a Neither add-on, not the brightest idea here on Assassin's part, and a reactor in production, so just a mixed tech play. And a quick expand from PPZvPPT. That is a very early expansion, so we can surely expect some demanding economical play. And a Stargate for Gatsin, so perhaps some Void Race, perhaps some early Phoenix Harass, something of the sort. And an Evo Chamber nearly finishing for Conrad. Now Skitn has this robotics facility with a quick observer, an immortal, and a second gateway, as well as a forge finishing for him. And myself, my warp gate tech is completing as I get a 4th gate and a forge. And meanwhile, all the way over here, PPZvPPT's warp gate tech comes nearer and nearer to completion. And so units wise, my basic military units warping in, stalkers, zealots, sentries, and Twilight Council here for PPZvPPT. So either this could blossom into Quick Dark Templar Charge Lot Archon, which is great against Zerg, or perhaps Blink Stalkers. That I'm not sure if that can qualify as a rush. I have heard people consider it such, but I personally believe it's just Blink Stalkers immediately, as it is not too early for a rush. About the 7-minute mark here, and now it's the orbital for Assassin as he gets a simple M&M bio build, and now it's missile attacks level 1 for Conrad. So Roach, Ling, Hydra probably in Conrad's immediate future, and here is Blink. So I believe we will have Blink Stalkers. Charge-Lot Archon, he would have researched Charge first, and now this Double Forge, quite intelligent on Meth's part, as he will get weapons level 1 and armor level 1 simultaneously in this first Void Ray in production from Gatsin. So he's obviously going for a mass Void Ray or Void Ray harass, and here's this observer detected by the photon cannon. He is quickly shot down, and his smoldering ruins left amid the opposing base. And now here's the expansion for Skitn, and Conrad's Zerglings putting pressure on the opposing destructible debris. And now here's just a few roaches. I'm surprised that Skitn has actually out-expanded Conrad. That comes as quite a surprise to me. And here is Siege Tech for Assassin. So he's got 1 Siege Tank, so obviously some Siege play on his part. And now a simple 1 robotics facility, and how many gateways? Just 2, I believe. Yes, just 2 gateways, warp gates for Skitn, and a Twilight Council warping in. And for myself, I have a 4 gateway and 1 Stargate build, and let's see if I will. Sorry, not me. Let's see if I was able to with Skitn's observer vision. Yes, I was able to spot that Stargate and probably the Void Ray. So I was most probably able to realize that this was imminent, and through an intelligent transition into Stargates, clearly Phoenix Stalker or Void Rays myself are imminent. And here is Glial Reconstitution. I'm not sure exactly what that upgrade does. I believe it is simply an armor upgrade for roaches or just Zerglings in general. Do not fault me for being this unintelligible. It's just I do not remember all Zerg upgrades off the top of my head. And so here's a hallucinated Void Ray on my part, and actually 2 more ahead of it, quickly being taken down by Gatsin's own. And now this may trick them into believing I am massing Void Rays myself. As they have seen nothing from Skitn, it is quite viable that this illusion may work. So this hallucination doing no damage, of course, but a Zealot makes up for it as the hallucination fades. And now Skitn, just with this multi-immortal play, and Conrad was actually able to wipe out Project Meth's expansion, so that could be huge later in the game as his economy is now cut in half. And here's of course a couple of Hydras in production from Conrad. So Roachwing Hydra, clearly viable. Here's this Hydra list then. And is Glial Reconstitution still in play? It is a Roach 1 upgrade, I do believe, so perhaps it just increases the armor of roaches. And now here's my first 2 Phoenixes, so Phoenix Stalker query on my part. And a Fleet Beacon in production from Gatsin, so that is a quite questionable decision. Perhaps he may go straight into a mothership or carriers along with his Void Rays, so clearly an air-heavy build, and that does not bode well for Skitn's Immortals, as he holds on to an expansion nicely, though he does forget to have these workers mining. He's got actually 4 idle probes. Never the best of ideas. And so LolsAssassin with these 2 Marines sitting on the Zelnaga will maintain vision, and this unrebuilt expansion for Meth will clearly deprive him of some economic power. Look at this, this excess of probes. Between each mineral gather, they actually have to redirect since there are so many. They are overstaffed, and so Gatsin here warping in his own expansion, and mine has finished. I have a double gas here, so 4 gases for myself. This 1 Stargate still producing an excess of Phoenixes, and this Void Ray ball building up now to about 6. He seems to be moving in with these 100 Void Rays prepared for anything. And so it looked as though he saw those were hallucinations, and will now immobilize his forces, perhaps for an economical harass, as is often seen in Void Ray play. And now finally the expansion for Conrad. So an extremely late natural expansion. That is not the brightest idea to be expanding this late into the game. 13 minutes in, and he is only getting his natural. If you're a Zerg, not the brightest idea. He should have had at least 2 by now. Maybe even, yeah, probably 2 sounds good. Maybe even 3. And now an Overseer for Conrad. Just generally, I do suppose. And now Gatsin's Void Rays continue to peruse the skies with seemingly no goal in sight, and multiple smartly placed Spore Crawlers for Conrad, though none particularly near his mineral mine. So Void Rays could perhaps just eliminate this one, and then they would have clear skies for eliminating his workers. And so now my probe staff getting to work as another Phoenix comes out. So I have 8 Phoenixes to Gatsin's 6 Void Rays. And now these Void Rays will move in for a harass, a quite important moment of the game, so let us see how this goes. The one Spore Crawler getting to work, though it soon falls, and now Conrad's workers will be seemingly obliterated. Wow, quite an admirable amount of pressure from all of these Void Rays, as my Phoenix air fleet quickly mobilizes to deal with them. And so these Phoenixes now getting to work and making quick work of the Void Rays. Now only 2 remain thanks to these Phoenixes. So a smart transition from myself led to the demise of Gatsin's Void Rays. Finally, PPZvPPT is able to expand yet again. And that was quite a delay on his expansion part. And here we have just a biological M&M army from Assassin. We have not seen too much from him. And 3 recuperated Void Rays from Gatsin, but still 1 Stargate. And nothing made use of this Fleet Beacon. So he has either forgot that he has the Fleet Beacon, or just not made too much use of it. And 1 Stargate, that is not the brightest idea. The more structures, the merrier. And now here is a combined push from myself and Skitn. We are moving out, though Conrad is seemingly nowhere to be found. He has a Hydra Roachling Ball and an Overseer as well, prepared to move out. And now 3 smartly placed, actually 4 total for Skitn, so that is smart to hold off against Void Rays. And now the natural will yet again fall, both naturals actually, for our opponents. So that will again cut their economies in half, and especially with PPZvPPT's overstaffed workforce over here, that will not bode well for his economy. And so let us see how this push will fare. These Phoenixes, of course, unable to attack ground, so they're just seemingly meaninglessly flying around the skies. And now these siege tanks and photon cannons quickly getting to work on the opposing base, though it is quite literally an uphill battle. Just the combined Terran defensibility and the siege tanks and photon cannons are holding our forces in a stalemate, essentially. And as you can see here, quite a low economy for PPZvPPT, as he has just so many workers and so little minerals. And all of his pylons here went down, so he is quite behind on pylons now. And finally, Conrad's able to push, though not in sync with my and Skitn's push. And now PPZvPPT's massive wall of stalkers is just quite intimidating, even from a broadcaster's perspective. And so immediately 4 more warp gates in production for myself, so that will give me 8 total. The Stargate's sitting idly. So as a result of that stalker ball, my transition has again transformed into now a no more Stargate build. And so I find that it's, even though it is quite complementing my past self, I find that it's quite intelligent not to build 2 Stargates on my own part, because that would dedicate myself fully to the strategy. And if I would have faced this Stalker Ball with 2 Stargates worth of Phoenixes, that would not bode well for me. So now these 4 Warp Gates finishing, and Skitn has a total of 5 and 2 robotics facilities producing mortals. So clearly he is now putting his immortal gear into full swing, as Stalkers are quite nicely countered by immortals, though this massive ball of just 24 Stalkers, an entire control group with blink and 3/3, though no shields, that is quite nearly unstoppable. Now here's the Twilight Council for myself, so some late tech, perhaps some Dark Templars, something of the sort, or Blink Stalkers myself, or Charge Lots, though Archons would not be a smart idea, as Stalkers are armored mechanical. And so these Void Rays now, just 3 for Gatsin. He finally is able to get a second Stargate, though he is not producing out of both. He has 3 on one and 0 on the other. 2 more gateway, the Gateway and the Forge being recuperated by Gatsin, and now he will get his own expansion. But let us look at this archaic mineral line. 3 depleting mineral fields, and almost a control group in itself of workers. Now just 2 mineral fields, and finally he's gonna move all of his workers, well, most of them, even some of his gas workers, to this new mineral field over here without even a natural. So that is how desperate his economy has gotten. Look at this standstill mineral production, 200. So now he must rely entirely on this control group, and so about 32 total Stalkers. He must rely on them. Should he lose any of them, he will it will almost be impossible for him to recuperate them. Sorry for the quite raspy voice. I'm tired. It is a Sunday, for me at least, probably not for you. And my voice is just quite beaten down from the pressure of the week. I will be entering a nice Epsom salts bath after I finish this commentary. Though, let us continue. This Twilight Council here with charge and blink for myself, though I do have a Dark Shrine in production. So this is about to finish amid a push from Meth Stalkers, and they actually hit one of his own, so a mistake in micro. And so now, Project Meth Stalkers and the timing of my Dark Shrine and these 8 Dark Templar is just quite ironic, as he is just pushing without any detection as my Dark Templar land. And so now here is a push from Skitn, repelled by the M&M army of Assassin, as my Dark Templar quickly get to work, but a scan does land, and here are Project Meth's Stalkers on Meth, as there are 3-3 with Blink, and here are multiple Dark Templar warped in by myself. My economy is unsalvageable at this point, and these Stalkers will quickly fall to the blades of Shakuris, of course, of the Dark Templar. This Stalker ball just being diminished. He tries to run them through my main army, unsuccessful, as my returning Dark Templar make quick work of his Stalkers. And wow, let us check this ball. It had formerly encapsulated a control group and a line worth, I'm not sure if that's a row or column, so I will not say either, of Stalkers, has now just been reduced to a little bit more than a half control group. So quite a lot lost, especially considering the fact that Meth, it is hard to keep up with 6 names, does not even have a natural, so he does not, well, actually now he does have enough money to make that Nexus. And seemingly at the absolute worst time for him, a push will come from my Dark Templar, Charge Lot, Blink Stalker, well, nearly Blink Stalker, and Sentry Ball, as I encourage, well, at least await the responses from Skitn and Conrad. So this large mass of Hydralisks prepared to deal with Void Rays, as they do ever so efficiently. And so now this M&M ball of Assassin, quite small for this late in the game, will move out as I pull back, and now the combined forces of myself, Conrad, and Skitn face Assassin, Gatsin, and Meth all at once, though for some reason Meth does retreat, and he will abandon his Terran allies, much like Arturus Manx abandoned Sarah Kerrigan. And let us just look at these Hydralisks dealing with the Void Rays. Of course, another scan landing here, but these Dark Templar are just going to move in and mercilessly dispatch the Stalker Ball. So the Stalker Ball is forced out of the equation as our combined army bears down on the opposing base, and immediately these charge lots rip these siege tanks into multiple mechanical pieces as this one Void Ray quickly falls. This massive Immortals will deal with any amount of Stalkers from Meth, as the Lawless Assassin leaves the game, Gatsin leaves the game, and my Dark Templar seemingly tauntingly destroy Meth's warp gates, and so Skitn pulls the GG, though he was on the winning team, so quite uncourteous of him, as the buildings of Meth fall to our wrath. And so that is the end of the game. As you can see, Project Meth has left the game. It is the end of the replay. And I will make my post-game commentary short, as I am tired. I'm sure you're tired of hearing my voice. All I must say is that on my team's part, we played quite well, and I will mention that in the score page after the game, I was leading by some 20,000 to the second place, so clearly my macro does exceed the others. And they were a random match team, so you must forgive them in that regard. They were not practiced together. They had not practiced together as myself, Skitn, and Conrad had, so we did have that natural advantage. And so, quite simply, transitions on my part, as the Dark Templar returned from their banished homeworld to save the day. And they were able to just tear the Stalker army into pieces. I can tell you, when I played the game, and when I was in the midst of fighting those Stalkers, it was so tense. After the initial failed push on my part, I said out loud, "Yeah, we're done." Over Skype to Skitn and Conrad, I said, "Yes, it's over. We're pretty much finished. They can counterattack." They did not, as they did not have much of a remaining army, and for that we won. So anyway, I will let you go. I will see you next time. This is Aust77SC signing out. See you in episode 5. Goodbye.